Organism and population. Our living world is fascinating, diverse, amazingly complex. We can try to understand its complexity by investigating processes at various levels of biological organization, macromolecules, cells, tissue, organs, individuals, organism, population, communities, ecosystem, and biomes. At any level of biological organization, we can ask two type of question. For example, when we hear the bulbul singing early morning in the garden, we may ask how the birds sing or why does the bird sing. The how type question seek the mechanism behind the process, while the why type question seek the significance of the process. For the first question in our example, the answer might be in terms of operation of voice and vibrating bone in the birds. Whereas for the second question, the answer may lie in the birds need to communicate with its mate during breeding season. Whereas the second question, the answer may lie in the birds need to communicate with its mate during breeding season. When we observe the nature, when you observe the nature around you with a scientific frame of mind, you will certainly come up with many interesting questions of both types. Why are the night blooming flowers generally white? Why does the bee know which flower has nectar? Why does cactus have so many thorns? How does the chick sparrows recognize her own mother? And so on. You have already learned in previous classes that ecology is a subject which studies interaction among organisms and between the organism and its physical abiotic environment. Ecology is basically concerned with four levels of biological organization: organism, population, communities, and biomes. In this chapter, we explore ecology at population level. Ecology is basically concerned with four levels of biological organization: organism, population, communities, and biomes. Organism, population, communities, and biomes. Pop- um, Population attributes. In nature, we rarely find isolated single individual of any species. Find isolated single individual of any species. Majority of them live in a group in a well-defined geographical area, share or compete for similar resources, potentially interbreed and thus constitute a population. Although the term inbreeding implies sexual reproduction, a group of individuals resulting from even asexual reproduction is also generally considered a population for the purpose of ecological study. All the cormorants in a wetland, rat in an abandoned dwelling, teakwood trees in a forest tract, bacteria in a culture plate, lotus plant in a pond are some examples of a population. Cormorants in a wetland, rats in abandoned dwelling, teakwood trees in a forest tract, bacteria in a culture plate, and lotus in a pond are some examples of population. In earlier chapter, we have learned that although an individual organism is the one that has to cope with a changed environment, it is a population level that the natural selection operates to evolve desired trait. It's a pop. It's at population level that natural selection operates to evolve the desired trait. Population ecology is therefore an important area because it links ecology to population genetics and evolution. It links ecology to population genetics and evolution. Population genetics और evolution को लिंक करती है इकोलॉजी. ठीक है. A population has certain attributes whereas an individual organism does not. An individual may have birth rates, but a population have birth rate settles. In a population, this rate refers to per capita births and death. The rate hence expressed are exchange in number, increase or decrease with respect to member of a population. Here is an example. If in a pond there was 20 lotus plant last year and through we calculate the birth rate as 8 by 20 is equal to 0.4 offspring per lotus per year. If 4 individuals in a laboratory population of 40 fruit flies died during a specific time interval, say a week. The death rate in a population during that period, 4 by 4, 4 by 40, were 0.1 individual per fruit fly per week. Another attribute characteristic of a population is the sex ratio. An individual is either male or female, but a population sex ratio, example, 60% of a population are female and 40% are male. A population at any given time is composed of individuals of different ages. If the age distribution percent individual for a given age or age group is plotted for the population, the resulting structure is called age pyramid. For human population, the age pyramid generally shows the age distribution of males and females in a diagram. The shape of the pyramid reflects the growth status of population, whether it is growing, stable, or declining. The size of a population tells us a lot about its status. Whatever ecology poses we wish to investigate in a population, be it outcome to the competition with another species, impact of a predator, or effect of the pesticide application, we always evaluate them in terms of any change in the population size. The size in nature could be as low as less than 10 Siberian cranes at Bharatpur wetlands in an year. Siberian, Siberian cranes at Bharatpur wetland in any year is less than 10, or go into millions. Chlamydomonas, Chlamydomonas in a pond is million तक रहता है, ठीक है. Population size, technically called population density, to design need not necessary to measure not necessary to be measured in the number only. Although total number is generally the most appropriate measure to population of the density. Total number is generally most appropriate measure of population density. Total number is generally the most appropriate measure of population density. It is in a case either meaningless or difficult to determine. In an area, if the 200 carrots on grass of Parthenium forest plants, but only a single huge banyan tree with a large canopy is setting that the population density of a banana low relative to that carrot grass amounts of underestimating the enormous roles of banyan in that community. In such cases, percent cover biomass is more meaningful measurable to the population size. The total number is again not an easy adaptive measure if the population is huge and counting is impossible or very time consuming. If you have a dense laboratory culture of bacteria in a petri dish, what is the best measure to report its density? Sometimes for a certain ecological investigation, there is no need to know about absolute population density. Relative density serve the purpose equally well. For instantaneous number of fish caught per tribe is good enough measure of its population density in trade. We are mostly obliged to estimate population size indirectly without actually counting them or seeing. Tiger census in our national park and tiger reserves in is often based on a pug marks and fecal palate. Population growth. The size of population for any species is not a static parameter. Is not a static parameter. Size of population for any species is not a static parameter. It keeps changing with time, depending on various factors including food availability, predation, pressure, and adverse weather. In fact, it is this changes in population density rate gives us some idea of what happening to the population, whether it is flourishing or declining. Whatever might be the ultimate reason, the density of a population of a given habitat during a given period fluctuate due to the changes in four basic criteria, uh, two of which, natality and immigration, contribute and increase in population density, and two, mortality and immigration to a degree. Natality refers to the birth during a given period. Natality refers to birth. Mortality is the number of death in the population. Death, birth. Immigration. Immigration number of individuals of the same species that have come into the habitat from elsewhere. They have come, come into, come into immigration, immigration or left, left is immigration. The number of individuals of population who left the habitat and gone elsewhere during the that period under consideration is immigration. Look at that now. So if n is a population density at a time t, though then its density at time t plus 1 is nt plus 1, n is equal to nd plus b plus e minus d plus e. You can see from the equation that population density will increase if the number of births plus and the number of immigrants is more than number of dead plus number of immigrants. Dead under normal condition, birth and deaths are most important factor influencing population density. Under normal condition, birth and deaths are most important factor influencing population density. The other two factors assuming importance only under special condition. For instance, if a new habitat is just being colonized. Significant population growth, then for instance, if a new habitat is just being colonized, immigration may contribute more significantly to population growth than birth rate. Uh, when, if question asks like when immigration is more contribute than birth, when just being colonized, when new habitat is just being colonized, then um, uh, birth and deaths are not more important. More important is immigration. Immigration is more important when new habitat is just colonized. Growth models tells the growth of a population with the time show any specific and predictable pattern. We have been concerned about the unbred-led human population growth and problem created by its in our country. And it's therefore natural for us to be curious in different animals, and it is therefore natural for us to be curious in different animal population nature and behave the same way or show some restraint growth. Perhaps we can learn a lesson or two from nature on how to control population growth model. Exponential growth. Resource, food and shape. Availability is obviously essential for unimpeded growth of a population. Ideally, when resources in the habitats are unlimited, each species has the ability to release fully its innate potential to grow in a number, as Darwin observed while developing his theory of natural selection. Then the population grow in an exponential or geometrical fashion in a population of size, and birds and do not the birth rate, not total number but per capita, are represented as B. Death rates, again per capita death rates as D, then increase or decrease in and during a unit time period is dn by dt will be dn by dt is b minus d into n, let b minus d is equal to r. Then r is what? Biotic potential. Biotic potential. R is interesting rate of natural increase. Then dn by dt is equal to r by n, r into n. The r is in this equation is equal to the interesting rate of natural increase, and it is very important parameter chosen for assessing impact of any biotic or abiotic factor on population growth. To give you some idea about the magnitude of r values, for the Norway The Norway rate, the R is equal to 0.015. नॉर्वे के लिए नॉर्वे रेट के लिए नॉर्वे रेट के लिए आर इक्वल टू 0.015, आर इक्वल टू 0.015. फॉर द फ्लोर बीटर इट इज 0.12. फॉर फ्लोर बीटर के लिए 0.12, फ्लोर बीटर के लिए 0.12. In 1981, the R value for human population in India was 0.0205. इंडिया में ह्यूमन पॉपुलेशन के लिए R value 0.025, 0.0205. Find out what the current R value is. For calculating it, you need to know the birth rates and death rates. The above equation describes the exponential or geometrical growth rate of a population and result in J-shaped curve when we plot n in relation to time. If you are familiar with the basic calculus, you can derive an integral form of exponential growth. Equation is nt is equal to n naught ert. nt is equal to population density after time t. N naught is population density at time 0. R is interesting rate of natural increase. E is the best of natural algorithm. Now look at the diagram. Population density. Any species growing exponentially under unlimited resources condition can reach enormous population density in a short time. Darwin showed how even a slow-growing animal like elephant could reach enormous number in the absence of checks. The following is an anecdotal population narrative to demonstrate dramatically how a fast huge population could build up when growing exponentially. The king and the minister outside for a chat. As came the king, confident of winning game, was ready to accept any bid proposed by the minister. The minister humbly said if he won, he wanted only some bid against the quantity of which is to be calculated, placing chessboard one green in square, and then two in square, and then four in square, and then eight in square, and so on, doubling each time and previous quantity of bid and the next square until all 64 squares were filled. The King accepted the seemingly easily and started the game, but unluckily for the minister won. The king felt that fulfilling the minister but was so easy. He started a single game and the first square and proceeded to fill the other. Following the minister suggested procedure, but by the time he covered half the chessboard, the king realized to his dismay that all wheat produced in his entire kingdom pulled together would still be inadequate to cover all 65 square. Now think a tiny parachute starting with just one individual. Think paramecium starting with just one individual and through binary fission doubling in number every day. And imagine what a mind-boggling population size it will reach in 65 days, provided food and space remain unlimited. सही बात है. Paramecium starting with just one individual and through binary person doubling in number every day, and imagine what a mind of struggling population size it would reach in 65 days. Logistic growth. No population of any species in nature has at its disposal unlimited resources to permit exponential growth. This leads to competition between individuals for limited resources. Eventually, the fittest individuals survive and reproduce. The government of many countries have also realized this fact that they introduce various restrictions with a view to limit human population growth. In nature, a given habitat has enough resources to support a maximum possible number, beyond which no further growth is possible. Let us call that limit as nature's carrying capacity K for the species in that habitat. Population growth in a habitat with limited resources show initially a lag phase, followed by a phase of acceleration and deceleration, finally an asymptote when the population density reaching the carrying capacity. A plot of n in relation with time result in a sigmoid curve This type of population growth is called Warhol-logistic growth and is described by the following equation: dn by dt is equal to Rn k minus n by k, k minus n by k. Here it is logistic growth, where n where n population density at type T are an interesting rate of natural increase, k is carrying capacity. Since resources for growth for most animal population are finite and become limiting sooner or later, the logistic growth model is considered a more realistic one. Gather from governments and then data the population figure for India for last 100 years, plot them and check which growth pattern is evident. Life history variation. Population evolved to maximize their reproductive fitness, also called Darwinism, Darwinian fitness, higher value in the habitat in which they live under a particular set of selection. Pressure organisms evolve towards the most efficient reproductive strategy. Some organisms breed only once in their lifetime. Pacific salmon fish and bamboo. Breed only once in their lifetime is Pacific salmon fish bamboo. Pacific salmon fish bamboo, while others many times during their life, most birds and mammals. Pacific salmon fish and bamboo reproduce once in their lifetime. Some produce a large number of small size offspring, oyster and pelagic fishes. Oyster and pelagic fishes, small size but large number. While others produce a small number of large size offspring, birds and mammals. Birds और mammals small number का करते हैं लेकिन large size offspring. So which is desirable for maximum fitness? Ecologists suggest that the life history traits of organisms have evolved in a relation to the constraint imposed by the biotic and abiotic component of the habitat in which they live. Evolution of life history traits in different species is currently an important area of research being conducted by ecologists. Population interaction. Can you think of any natural habitat on Earth that is inhabited just by a single species? There is no such habitat, and such a situation is even inconceivable. For any species, the minimal requirement is one or more species or on which it can feed. Even a plant species which makes its own food cannot survive alone. It needs soil microbes to break down the organic um, matter in soil and return the inorganic nutrients for absorption. And then, how will the plant manage pollination without an animal agent? It is obvious that in nature, animal and plants and microbes do not and cannot live in isolation, but interact in various ways to form biological community. Even in minimal communities, many interactive linkage exist, although all may not be ready apparent. It is interspecific interaction arises from interaction of population of two different species. They could be beneficial, determinal, or neutral, neither harm or not benefit, to one of the species or both, assigning positive sign of the beneficial interaction, negative sign for detrimental, and 0 for neutral interaction. Let us take all the possible outcome of interspecific interaction. Uh, positive mutualism, negative competition, uh, positive negative predation, positive negative parasitism, positive no effect कॉन्सलिज्म माइनस जीरो एमेंसलिज्म. दोनों का फायदा म्यूचुअलिज्म, एक दोनों का नुकसान कॉम्पिटिशन. एक का फायदा एक का नुकसान प्रिडेशन एंड पैरासिटिज्म. एक का फायदा एक का कुछ नहीं कॉमर्शियलिज्म. एक का नुकसान एक का कुछ नहीं एमेंसलिज्म. Both species benefit in mutualism and both lose in competition in their interaction with each other. In both parasitism and predation, only the one species get benefits, parasite or predator respectively, and the interaction is determined to the other species, host and prey respectively. The interaction where one species is benefit and other is neither benefit nor harm is commensalism, and in amensalism the other and one species is harmed whereas the other is uninfected. predation, parasitism, and communalism share a common characteristic. The interacting species live closely together. Live closely together. Predation, parasitism, and commensalism share common characteristic. The interaction species live closely together. Predation हो गया, parasitism हो गया, और कॉमनसेलिज्म हो गया। ये कॉमन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक शो करते हैं। क्या है वो कॉमन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक? देयर इंटरेक्टिंग स्पेसीज लिव टुगेदर, साथ में ही रहते हैं। ठीक है, अब पहले हम पढ़ेंगे प्रेडिशन। Predation. What will happen to all the energy fixed by the autotrophic organism if the community has no animal to eat plant? You can think of predation as a nature way of transferring to higher trophic level energy fixed by the plant. When we think of predator and prey, the most probably it is a tiger and deer that readily come to our mind. But a sparrow eating any seeds is no less a predator. Sparrow eating any seed is no less a predator. Yeah. Although animal eating plants are categorized separately as herbivores, they are, in a broad ecological context, not very different from predator. Besides acting as conduits for energy transfer across trophic level, predators play other important role. They keep prey population under control, but for predator, prey species could achieve very high population densities and cause ecosystem instability. When certain exotic species are introduced into a geographical area, they become invasive and start spreading fast because the invaded land does not have its natural predator. The prickly pear cactus introduced into Australia in the early 1920s caused havoc by spreading rapidly into millions of hectares of rangeland. Finally, the invasive cactus was brought under control only after the cactus feeding predator, a moth from its natural habitat, was introduced into the country. Biological control method adopted. The agriculture pest control are based on the ability of a predator. Biological control method adopted in agriculture pest control are based on ability of the predator to regulate prey population. Predators also help in maintaining species diversity in a community by reducing intensity of competition among competition prey. In rocky industrial communities of American Pacific coastline, starfish predator is an important predator. In a field experiment, all the starfish were removed from an enclosed industrial area. More than 10 species of invertebrates become extinct within a year because of interspecific competition. If a predator is too efficient and overexploit its prey, then the prey might become extinct, and following it, the predator will also become extinct for lack of food. This is the reason why predators are natures are prudent. They prey species have evolved various defenses for lessen the impact of predation. Some species of insect like frogs are cryptic color camouflage to avoid being detected easily by the predator. Some are poisonous and therefore avoided by the predator. The monarch butterfly is highly disrespectful to its predator, but because of a species the physical chemical present in the body. In addition, when the butterfly acquires this chemical during its capillary stage by feeding on a poisonous feed. For a plant, herbivores are the predator. For the plant, herbivores are the predator. Nearly 25% of all insects are known as the phytophagous, feeding on a plant and other part of a plant. Nearly 25% of all insects are known as phytophagous, feeding on plants in other part of a plant. The problem is particularly severe for plant because unlike animal, they cannot run away from their predators. Plants therefore have evolved an astonishing variety of morphological and chemical defense against herbivores. Thorns, acacia, and cactus are most common morphological means of defense. Acacia and cactus, acacia and cactus, acacia and cactus, acacia and cactus. Many plants produce and store chemicals that make herbivores sick when they are eaten, inhibit feeding or digestion, disrupt its reproduction, or even kill it. You must have seen you must have seen weed calotropis growing in abandoned field. The plant processes highly poisonous cardiac glycosides, and that is why you never see any cattle or goat browsing on this plant. Calotropis पॉइजनस कार्डियक ग्लाइकोसाइड्स होते हैं कैलोट्रोपिस में पॉइजनस बीट ऑफ कैलोट्रोपिस में पॉइजनस कार्डियक ग्लाइकोसाइड्स होते हैं a wide variety of chemical substances that we extract from a plant in a commercial scale nicotine caffeine quinine scaring opium are produced by them as a defense against grasses and browsers competition when Darwin spoke about the struggle for existence and survival of fittest in nature, he was convinced that interspecific competition is a potent force in organic evolution. Interspecific competition. Interspecific competition is a potent force in predator. It is generally believed that competition occurs when closely related species compete for the same resources that are limited, but this is not entirely true. Firstly, totally unrelated species could also compete for the same resources. For instance, in some shallow South American lakes, visiting flamingos and resident fishes compete for their common food, the zooplankton in the lake. Interspecies competition is a potent force in an organic evolution. Interspecies competition is potent force in an organic evolution और लिमिटेड हो या अनलिमिटेड हो स्पेस कंपटीशन कर सकती है ठीक है टोटली अनरिलेटेड स्पीसीज का एग्जांपल है सम shallow South American lakes visiting flamingos and resident fishes compete for their common food zooplankton in the lake. Resources need to be limiting for competition to occur. In an interfering competition, the feeding efficiency of one species might be reduced due to the interfering and inhibitory presence of the other species, even if resources fully are abundant. Therefore, the competition is the best defined as the process in which the fitness of one species another in terms of our interaction and increase is significantly lower than the presence of another species. It is it is relatively easy to demonstrate in the laboratory experiment um, as goes and other experiment ecologists did. When resources are limited, the competitively superior species will eventually eliminate the others, but evidence for such competitive exclusion occurring in nature is not always conclusive. Strong and persuasive circumstantial evidence does exist, however, in some cases, the abandoned tortoise in Galapagos Island became extinct with a decade after goats were introduced on the island, apparently due to the greater browsing efficiency of the goats. Abandoned tortoise Galapagos Island से distinct हो गए because of greater efficiency of goats. Another evidence for the occurrence of a competition in nature come from what is called competitive release. A species whose distribution is restricted to a small geographical area because of the presence of competitively superior species found to expand to its distributor range dramatically when the competition of species is experimentally removed. A species whose distribution is restricted to a small geographical area because of the presence of competitive superior species is found to expand its distribution range dramatically when the competition of being experimentally removed. Cornell's elegant field experiment shows that the rocky seacoast of Scotland and the larger and competitively superior barnacle Balanus and Balanus dominates the interstitial area and exclude the smaller barnacle Thalamus from dead zone. तो बैलेनस ने कैथेमेलस को रिमूव कर दिया फ्रॉम स्कॉटलैंड कोस्ट कॉर्नर सिलिकॉन फील्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट में, ठीक है। गोस कॉम्पिटिटिव एक्सक्लूजन बेसिस में स्टेट दैट two closely related species for the same resource cannot coexisting indefinitely and the competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually. This may be true if resources were limiting, but not otherwise. More recent studies do not support such generalization about competition, while they do not rule out of the occurrence of interspecific competition in nature. They point out that species facing competition might evolve mechanisms that promote coexistence rather than the exclusion. One such mechanism of the resource passing. If two species compete for the same resources, they could avoid competition by choosing, for instance, at a different time for feeding or foraging patterns. MacArthur shows that five closely related species of warblers living in the same tree were able to avoid competition and coexist due to the behavior difference in the foraging pattern. फॉरेजिंग पैटर्न की वजह से वेलब्रस ट्री को एग्जिस्ट कर पाते हैं. Parasitism. Considering that the parasitic mode of life ensured free lodging of males, mm, it is not surprising that parasitism has evolved in so many taxonomic groups, from plant to higher vertebrates. Many parasites have evolved to be the host specific. They can parasite only a single species of host in a such way that both host and parasite tend to co-evolve. That is, if the host evolve a special mechanism for rejecting a resistance of the parasite has to evolve mechanism to counteract and neutralize them in order to successful with the some host species in accordance with their lifestyle. Parasites evolve special adaptations such as loss of unnecessary sense organ, presence of adhesive organ or suckers, or to the cling to the host, the loss of digestive system, and high reproductive capacity. The life cycle parasites are often complex, involving one or two intermediate hosts or vector to facilitate parasitism of its primary host. The human liver fluke, a trematode parasite, depends on two intermediate hosts, a snail and a fish, to complete a life cycle. लिवर फ्लूक को दो होस्ट चाहिए टू कंप्लीट इस लाइफ साइकिल एंड वो दो होस्ट इन snail and fish. Liver fluke wanted to host snail and fish. The malarial parasite needs a vector of mosquito to spread other host. Majority of the parasite harm the host. Majority of the parasite harm the host. They may reduce survival, growth, and reproduction of the host and reduce its population density. They might render the host more vulnerable to the predation by making it weak. Do you believe that uh, an ideal parasite should be able to thrive within the host without harming? Then why didn't natural selection lead to the evolution of such totally harmless parasites? Parasites that feed on the external surface of the host organism are called ectoparasite. The most familiar example of this group is lice on a human and ticks on a dog. Many marine fishes are infested with ectoparasite copepods. Copepods. Cascata, a parasite plant that is commonly found growing on hedge plant. It has lost its chlorophyll and lives in the course of evolution. Cascada has lost its chlorophyll and lives in course of evolution. It derives its nutrition from the host plant, which it parasites. The female mosquito is not considered a parasite, although it needs our blood for reproduction. Can you explain? Yeah, because female mosquitoes जो होते हैं वो कम चूसते हैं मच्छर खून, और मलेरिया मच्छर जो रहते हैं वो तबीयत खराब कर देते हैं, इसलिए वो पैरासाइट होते हैं. In contrast, ectoparasites are those that live inside the host body at different sites. Liver, kidney, lungs, red blood cells. The life cycle effect of endoparasites are more complex because of their extreme exploration. Are more complex, more complex. कौन more complex है? The life cycle of endoparasite is more complex. ठीक है. Their morphological and anatomical features are greatly simplified while emphasizing their reproductive potential. Their morphological and anatomical features are greatly simplified while emphasizing their reproductive potential. Brood parasitism in birds is fascinating example of a parasitism in which the parasitic bird lays its egg in the nest. Brood parasitism in a bird's is a fascinating example of a parasitism in which the parasite bird lays its egg in the nest of its host and lets the host incubate them. ब्रूड अपना अंडा अपने घोंसले में नहीं देती, वो इसमें कहना चाह रहा है. During the course of evolution, the eggs of the parasitic birds have evolved to resemble the host egg in size and color to reduce the chances of the host bird detecting the foreign eggs and ejecting them from the nest. Try to follow the movement of cuckoo, quail, or the crow in your neighborhood's park during the breeding season, spring to the summer, and watch the brood parasitism in action. And the fourth point is commensalism. Let's look what we have studied. कंपटीशन पढ़ रहे थे हम, पैरासिटिज्म पढ़ रहे थे. कंपटीशन हो गया, पैरासिटिज्म हो गया, कॉमेंसलिज्म. चलो how many pages are left? Very less. It is almost finished. Commensalism. Uh, this is the interaction in which one species benefit and the other is neither harm nor benefit. An orchid growing an epiphyte on a mango branch, barnacles growing on a back of well benefit, while neither mango tree nor well derives any apparent benefit. The cattle aggregate, grazing cattle and in close association, a sight you are most likely to catch if you live in a farmed rural areas, is a classic example of commensalism. The aggregates always forage close to where the cattle are grazing because the cattle, as they move, stir up and flush out insect. एग्रेट जो होते हैं उनके लिए कैटल घास को खाता है, उसमें से इंसेक्ट निकलता है, ठीक है. Vegetation that otherwise might be difficult for aggregate to find and catch. Another example for commensalism is interaction between sea animal and that has stinging tentacles and clownfish, which lives among them. The fish get protection from a predator which stay away from the stinging tentacles. The animal does not appear to derive any benefit by hosting the clownfish. Is an example of fig flower is pollinated by wasp, and B is example of wasp lying in a fig fruit. ये फिग फ्लावर का एग्जांपल है, ये वास्प का एग्जांपल है. Mutualism. This interaction confers benefits on both interacting species. Lichens represent an intimate mutual relation between a fungus and photosynthetic algae or cyanobacteria. Similarly, the mycorrhiza associated between the fungi and the roots of higher absorption. The fungi help the plant absorption of essential nutrients from the soil, while the plant in turn provides the fungi with the energy yielding carbohydrate. The most spectacular and evolutionarily fascinating examples of mutualism are found in a plant and animal relationship. Plant need help of animal for pollinating their flower and dispersing their seeds and seeds. Animals obviously have to pay fees for the service that plant accepts from them. Plants offer rewards in peace in the form of knowledge, nectar, or pollination and juicy nutrition foods for seed dispersed. But the mutually beneficial system should also be safeguarded against cheater. For example, animals that try to steal nectar without leading population. Now you can see why plant-animal interaction often involve co-evolution of the mutually that is evolution of flower and its pollinator species are tightly linked with one another. In many species of fig trees, there is a tight one-to-one relationship with pollinator species of wasp. फिग ट्रीज के वास्प के साथ रिलेशन फिग एंड वास्प फिग वास्प फिग को पॉलिनेट कराता है ठीक it means that a given fig species can be pollinated only by partner wasp species and no other species. The female wasp uses the fruit not only as an oviposition egg laying but uses the developing seeds within the fruits for nourishing its larva. The wasp pollinates the fig inflorescence while searching for suitable egg-laying sites. In return for the favor of pollination, the fig offers wasp some of its developing seeds as food for the developing wasp larvae. Orchids show bewildering diversity of floral patterns, many of which have evolved to attract the right pollinator insect, bees and bumblebees, and ensure guaranteed pollination by it. Not all orchids offer rewards. The Mediterranean orchid ophiferous employs sexual decide to get pollination done by the species of bee. One petal of its flower bears an uncanny resemblance to the females of the bee in size, color, and marking. The male bee is attracted to what it perceives as a female, pseudo-copulated with the flower, and during that process is dusted with the pollen grain from the flower. When this same when this same bee pseudocopulates with another flower, it transfers pollen to it and thus pollinate the flower. Here you can see how co-ovulation operates. If the female bee's color patterns change even slightly for any reason during evolution, pollination success will be reduced unless the orchid flower co-evolve to maintain the resemblance of its petal to the female bee. Finally, organism population is finished. Now we study um, a summary of organism and population, and we end live session. If you like the session, please like and subscribe. As a branch of summary, as a branch of biology, ecology is the study of relationship living organism with the abiotic physiochemical factor and biotic component other species of the environment. It is concerned with the four levels of biological organization of population, communities, and biomes. Organization, population, communities, and biomes. Evolution is change through natural selection takes place at the population level, and hence population ecology is an important area of ecology. Population is a group of individuals in a given species sharing or competing for similar resources. In a defined geographical area, population have the attributes that individual does not. What's it that is sex ratio and age distribution? The proportion of different age group of a male and a female and population is often represented by geographically as age pyramid. Its shape indicates whether a population is stationary or growing or decline. Ecological effect. Ecological effect of any factors on a population are generally reflected in its size, which may population density, which may be expressed in a different way. Numbers biomass percent depending on the species. The population grow through births and immigration and decline through deaths and immigration. When resources are unlimited, the growth is usually exponential, but when resources have become progressively limiting, the growing pattern turns logistic. In other case, growing is ultimately limited by the carrying capacity of the environment. The extraction natural of natural uh, increase R is measured of the inherent potential of a population to grow. In nature, population of different species in a habitat do not isolate but interact with in many ways. Depending on the outcome of this interaction between the two species are classified on a competition. Both species suffer predation and maximum one benefit and others suffer commensalism one benefit and other unaffected. Commensalism one is harmed and unaffected. Other hand, the mutualism both is benefit. Predation is a very important process through which trophic energy transfer is facilitated and some predators help in controlling their prey population. A plant have evolved diverse morphological and chemical. Her defense against competition herbivory. In competition, it is presumed that the superior competitor eliminates the inferior one. The competitive exclusion principle, but many closely related species have evolved various mechanisms which facilitate their coexistence. Some of the most fascinating cases of mutualism in nature are seen in plant pollinator interaction.